This is Jessica Garcia with Brainstorming Women. I'm happy to bring you my conversation with Andrea Doyle.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to be here as well. I know that there are so many legal questions that are coming up in people's lives right now. Things from money and, of course, their children and the custody exchanges. We're located in Wake County and North Carolina. And so a lot of the guidance that I'll be giving to you today is guidance that have come down from our district court family judges. And those judges, however, are also taking some of that guidance from our chief Supreme Court justice on what they're trying to get people to do and to work together as far as the custody of their children and some other family law type cases or issues that will be coming up while this virus is going on.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I wanted to start with, if you don't mind today. I've seen and heard concerns around sharing the custody as it's agreed upon legally and making changes if there's a parent perhaps it's more exposed, and the other parent is concerned, and what do you do? The courts, I understand, are closed basically till June 1st. So concerns around that, have you been hearing, and what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so it's a really tough time in so many different ways. The courts are closed down until June the 1st in North Carolina right now. The judges are hearing some emergencies, some criminal matters, of course, are being heard. In the district court realm, which is what family law is, they are hearing some domestic violence matters, which of course, are emergencies. And they're also listening to some custody emergencies, but that really means that the child is being endangered in a physical or some other way. So for most concerns that people have out there, you are not going to be able to get in front of a judge until sometime after June the 1st. However, the guidance that our judges are giving here in Wake County, and I think through the state of North Carolina is my understanding, is that you really need to follow along with what your custody agreement is, whether it's an agreement, whether it's a court order. The judges really want you to follow that exchange pattern for your children. Now, of course, your children are your first priority here, and everybody wants their children to be safe. So what comes along with that guidance is that obviously you've got the essential workers out there. And I know from my own family and friends that many people, if they have a spouse or their child's parent is working in the healthcare field, they're voluntarily quarantining themselves. So you have to take some common sense approach with what's best for your children and this custody exchange. However, other essential services, like if someone's working at a Target or a Walmart, where you do have some risk to the public, but you're not on that front line, so to speak, in healthcare, the judges, again, really want you to continue with your custody schedule. Keep that going for your children. But again, common sense says, make sure you're safe. Don't expose your children to anything. If anyone in your household has been sick, then don't invite your children back to the household, or perhaps don't send them out to that other parent's household. So do your best during this difficult time to really try to get along and try to work with your child's other parent on perhaps where to do the custody exchange. A lot of people do those in public, and of course there are a lot of fast food type restaurants that are open, at least serving food, but you may not be able to go in there and use the bathroom or something else. So people really need to work together during this time and just try to remember what's best for your children, and that would be really to see both parents right now, as long as they're healthy.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, awesome. Along the situation that we're living today, one of the questions I've been hearing is the stimulus checks that are coming out, that there's an amount per child. And if a couple has, let's say, filed taxes in 2018 together, but has not filed in 2019, or concerns of what the address was or the account that was used, from a legal perspective, what recourse might they have if things are a concern there?
So that's an interesting question. And again, the legal recourse that they would have is to perhaps, if you, once you can get back in front of the judge, you can go back in front of the judge and at least ask for your portion of that stimulus check. What people can maybe do ahead of time with that, though, and people, they may have filed 2018 taxes together and 2019. Some people have filed their 2019 taxes. So a first step that someone may want to take is to look and see what account did that money get deposited in the 2018 or 2019 tax year. If that was a joint account, then it's my understanding, although I'm not a CPA or tax professional, but wherever you had your tax refund check get deposited to, that's probably where the stimulus check is going to go. Now, if you and your spouse have closed that account down, then it may bounce back and it could get mailed to you, although that may not come until later. Yeah. If you filed taxes together and if you qualified, I think most people know that they're supposed to be getting $1,200 a piece for the adults, and then I think it's $500 a piece per child. So again, I feel like, yeah, right, until they're 17. So I feel like that the money per child should be equally divided, and I feel like both spouses should get their own payment. Now, again, people can be hard to get along with, so just try to be proactive to make sure that you know where that check is going. Can you change where that check where it's going to be deposited? I don't know if you can or not at this point in time. I don't know, and I don't think anyone knows necessarily where the government is at providing those funds right now. They're supposed to be coming. If the spouse will not give you your half of the money back, then I think that's something that you can address in court. But again, that will be after June the 1st. And that does not mean you're going to get into court on June the 2nd. It's going to probably be several months after that. So everyone just needs to be on their best behavior and do what's right.
Yes, agreed. All right, Andrea, I have a couple more questions that are not related to this, but are more general in nature. One is a client not a client, someone that has been in a long-term marriage, and she thinks month to month, every month that she wants to get divorced, but she doesn't know what next steps to take. And of course, gathering her finances and understanding her financial picture is important. But what other suggestions might you have?
Well, obviously the best suggestion and how you're really going to understand your own situation is to contact a family law attorney. Most attorneys that I know of in the Wake County area, and I'm sure across the state, are doing remote consultations. So you can set up a consultation via video, as we're doing right now, or of course we'll do telephone consultations. So to really know your own set of circumstances and to understand what that particular person could do, they should seek out their own attorney. However, anytime someone's thinking about getting separated, obviously pulling together and knowing what your expenses are. What are your assets? What are your debts? That's a good way to start. Residency in North Carolina, you have to live here at least 6 months. So a lot of people are moving in and maybe they've only been here 3 months. Well, you couldn't file anything with the courts until you've been here 6 months. That's generally what makes you a resident. But you really can't, you can file things with the court right now, you just can't get into court anyway. So if people are waiting on residency requirements, that's a 6-month period. Again, gathering your paperwork, knowing what the assets, what your debts are. We just talked about taxes, maybe having a copy of your federal and your state income taxes for the last couple of years can help. That's a really good way to get started because attorneys need that type of information to figure out the child support. They'll need that information to try to understand, is there an alimony concern going on? And certainly they'll need the assets and the debts to look into the equitable distribution or the property division of the marriage.
Okay, so that brings me into another question that you sort of touched on actually, and that is because of the moves that some families may have made, in a case, for example, where there is no agreement, there was no custody agreement, and they've relocated to Wake County as an example from New York, a state where people have moved. So tell me what, other than waiting for 6 months residency, if there's no agreement in place already at all in another state, what next steps might be there available?
Well, certainly a lot of folks choose to do a separation agreement, and a separation agreement between spouses is a contract. And so with any contract, you can't make either party sign that contract. You need to agree on the terms and conditions in there. However, you can start working on a separation agreement. A separation agreement survives a divorce in North Carolina. So the things that you agree on in the separation agreement move beyond the divorce in North Carolina. So if you agree to a custody schedule in a separation agreement, or if you will agree to child support, property division, or a spousal support amount, you can put all of those issues in a separation agreement. So certainly, attorneys can help folks negotiate those things right now. We can help and guide with getting the essential paperwork and at least understanding what you'd like to propose. Again, prior to signing a separation agreement, really you should have one, if not both parties that are residents of North Carolina, but at least one party. So if someone has not been here at least that 6-month period, they probably do need to wait that 6-month period before it is signed off on. However, sometimes that negotiating process can take a couple months, so they can get started on doing something like that.
Okay, awesome. So they can get started with the conversation. They just might, and really though, a separation agreement can be agreed upon. You don't have to go to court for that.
Exactly. No, that is just an agreed upon document between the two parties. A lot of attorneys, most attorneys, I would say in North Carolina, we love to go to mediation. And so sometimes separation agreements are kind of hammered out in a mediation session. Generally, mediations in North Carolina, one party is in a room with their attorney and the other party is in the room with their attorney, and the mediator goes back and forth. Now that we're under these no contact provisions in North Carolina, most of our mediators here in Wake County, at least, are set up to do mediations online like we're doing now. So it's the mediators are offering very secure sessions where they can sort of keep everyone in their own area. So mediations can happen right now, even though the courts aren't open, although we don't have to have the mediation either. We can just send back proposals between attorneys or between parties to try to come up with a separation agreement as well.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. So one of the questions that I hear a lot or read about comments, and don't want to put you on the spot here, but just a general reply in terms of expectations when you're working with an attorney, or costs and things like that. What do you recommend? Because I know attorneys charge different fees, and I know that attorneys have different ways of doing business or communicating. So can you tell me a little bit about what you might suggest along those lines?
Yeah, so that it's tricky to say exactly what things cost.
Right.
Each attorney does have, generally attorney fees run about the same, in the same range for the same experience of attorneys. Obviously, older attorneys are going to charge more an hour than younger attorneys do. And some attorneys do more flat fee services rather than an hourly rate. What I generally try to tell any consultation that I have is make sure you at least have a confidence and some type of rapport with your attorney. You're going to spend a lot of time with your family law attorney, so you want to feel confident in their skills, and you want to feel like they hear what you're saying. So I know people don't want to go out and necessarily interview a lot of attorneys. That can be costly as well, but I would say at least go see one or two attorneys, or if you see one attorney and you don't feel like somehow your personalities meshed or that you feel confident in their abilities, then go out and seek that second opinion or the third opinion if you need to. On the other hand, if you see the first attorney and you feel like you've got a good rapport and that attorney hears what you want and they understand your position, then hire that attorney. So really the best way to understand what each attorney is going to charge is try to contact their office. You can call in and at least receive information from that office without getting charged. And then your next step is setting up that appointment with an attorney. So you can at least look on their websites. A lot of attorneys provide pretty good general information about their practice on their website. And then feel free to reach out and make that telephone calls. As attorneys, all of us are listening to our voicemails and trying to return as many telephone calls right now as we can because we're not in court. So reach out to that attorney and ask questions.
And do you think that as consumers, we also have a responsibility to be prepared and ask questions that are important to us about how do you communicate, the frequency or expectations? Don't you think that we should also take the initiative and go in there, not expecting just to hear information, but asking specific questions?
Definitely so. A lot of times the first consultation with an attorney, it's very overwhelming because the attorney has so much information regarding your legal situation, but definitely don't leave out kind of that second step, like what are your costs? What do you charge? What is your, and a lot of things with the law are estimates in cost, but at least the attorney can give you what that estimate is. Yeah. Also, most attorneys have legal fee arrangements. And so if you think, okay, I do want to hire that client, they should have a written fee agreement or an arrangement to be able to show the client in writing so that there's a full understanding of what their charges are. For the telephone calls, the emails, many attorneys love to use their legal assistant or will use an associate attorney. Those folks bill out at a lower hourly rate. And there's many things that a legal assistant or an associate are qualified to do. So you're not having to talk to that attorney all the time. So again, it just kind of depends on your situation and your fit and how you feel about that attorney. But certainly the attorney should be able to explain those charges and at least give you their best idea of what cost is in that particular situation.
Yeah, and I also have had conversations with folks around the attorney is the legal expert. Don't expect your attorney to be your therapist, for example. You know, and that's something that is important to remember as well in my experience, what I've seen.
Yes, that's very true. And a lot of times, it obviously any type of divorce is it's a complicated period. And I would say that many of our clients are seeking some sort of counseling or just, you need a professional to talk to sometimes to help work you through your situation. And most family law attorneys, I think we're fairly, we have a lot of empathy. And so we want to help our clients. Yeah. And certainly we can give some advice, but perhaps the best advice that we give is seek your own therapist. Have someone to talk to and kind of bounce those things off, which generally are covered by some insurance. And of course the attorneys aren't. So it could definitely save a client some money to just have that therapist to talk to if need be. Not everybody needs one, but a lot of times folks do.
Yeah, it'd be a divorce coach.
Yes, and perhaps that divorce coach can help them through many things and help with those finances, which are important for the questions with the equitable distribution and the alimony questions, the spousal support.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, thank you so much today. This has been very enlightening. I appreciate your time and always enjoy a conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to be on with you, Jessica. I really enjoyed it. And I hope some of the things we talked about today will help people with small questions. I know we can't answer every question for everyone, but it can get folks thinking and maybe have them reach out to that attorney.
And how do they reach you? Your office.
Yep, thank you. If they will go to our website, it's Alexander and Doyle PA. So you can go online. Our website's fairly interactive. You can download forms and read various information on there, or certainly you can do it the old-fashioned way and call our office, 919-380-1001. We'll be happy to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Andrea. Have a great
Thank
day,
you.
and I look forward to talking again.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Bye-bye. Stay
Bye.
safe.
You too.
Mhm.